I'm so happy to be here on this occasion. It's a sad occasion that Murli Maharsh is no longer with us. But it is an occasion when his multiple admirers, his friends, his comrades have an occasion to share some memories of him. Sarla ji is here, Shankar is here, and I recall my every trip to Thrissur was a very special trip because for me there was always the gang of four in Thrissur. Datmash and Chechi and Sarla and Murli Maharsh. And whether it was for an election campaign, whether it was for the EMS Smriti lecture, we insisted always on having at least one meal together. And Murli Maharsh had such a, between Datmash and Murli Maharsh, there was always a competition of who would tell the most jokes with the most humor. So I did have a very special relationship with Murli Maharsh. And I know even at that time, as a professor, as a lecturer here in Thrissur, he brought up so many young people. Our MLA was just recalling a story. And I know there are so many students who are now adults who know that in their growing up years, Murli Maharsh was such an important part of that growing up. Such an important part. When we look back at our college days, apart from our friends, we always look back at a favorite lecturer, a favorite professor. And I think among all the students who studied under Murli Maharsh, I'm sure that he was their favorite professor. And although it is 8 years now since he passed, I can see him in my mind's eye so clearly with the twinkle in his eye, his smile, and his naughty comments. I remember that so well. And we miss him. I want to express my homage to him, my tributes to him. He was a very dedicated comrade. Till his last breath, he worked so hard. He overcame so many difficulties towards the end of his life because his health was so frail. His health was frail, but his mind was always very, very strong. We remember you, Murli Maharsh, with love, with admiration. Red salute to you from all of us here. My dear friends, today we are speaking of a very important topic, and that is the mask of Hindutva, faith and politics in contemporary India. I think it's a very appropriate topic because it separates in the title itself the difference between Hindutva and faith. And I think, especially in a state like Kerala, where there is a concerted effort to bring that Hindutva ideology, to promote the Hindutva ideology in a state which has such a strong tradition of social reform, of the Renaissance movements, of the fight against caste. And therefore today I think it is one of the greatest challenges before Kerala, before the country, and therefore on this topic, the first point I would like to make is the division, the difference between Hindutva and the faith of ordinary people. And before we come to my main argument on that, I would like to comment on the contemporary situation as far as education is concerned and how this impacts on education. You know that there has been a very impactful struggle of the students and youth of India in the over 1 month long protest in Delhi demanding the resignation of the Union Minister for Education, Dharmendra Pradhan. Many people were very skeptical about this movement. But as far as we are concerned, we believed that the principle of accountability of any government, not once or twice, but multiple leaks of examination papers, have had a very demoralizing effect on students. I know myself, when I was in Rajasthan recently, a parent, a Dalit family, whose son had done the NEET exam, he had done it quite well. His father had mortgaged his land because it's not easy to prepare for the NEET exam. It requires very high standards. So usually you go to a coaching institute. The whole of North India is full of these coaching institutes, which are very expensive. This boy's father took a loan, mortgaged his land. The boy did the exam. He felt he had done quite well. But then he heard that the examination paper had leaked and the exam was cancelled. And that boy committed suicide. And there were at least 22 such students who committed suicide because of the exam leaks. So yesterday, when I heard the Prime Minister's, now our Prime Minister Modi ji, he is taken to making videos on Instagram. I don't know whether you saw that video. Did you see it? He had a video in which, you saw it. He had a video in which he says, I forgive the students for the abuse that they had levied at me. Some students used some nasty, abusive words against the Prime Minister. That's bad, okay. But here's the Prime Minister heading a party whose leaders day in and day out are using the worst kind of curse words. In Parliament itself, one of their MPs had used the worst abusive language against a fellow MP. Nothing is said about that. And then the Prime Minister, who should be asking forgiveness from the students of India for the leaks, for the corruption, for the communalization and commercialization of education. Instead of that, he is saying, I forgive the students for the abuse that they have against me. Modi ji, that is only abuse. But your policies and your corruption of your government has led to the deaths of over 20 students. If anybody has to apologize, it is the Prime Minister of India. And I want to congratulate the students, and I'm sure Murli Marsh would have been very proud of them because they ensured the principle of accountability, the principle of accountability of ministers who are in power and under whom corruption, not just once, not just twice, but multiple times. So when we talk about this government and we talk about its ideology, many of these real issues, the issues of education, the issues of health, the issues of the poor of this country, many of these issues get concealed because of the ideological, cultural, and social propaganda of this government. One of the slogans in this Delhi protest, it's a very interesting slogan. The students said, "Jab jab Modi darta hai, Hindu Muslim karta hai." What does that mean? That whenever this government and Prime Minister gets scared, they always resort to Hindu-Muslim politics. That is exactly the point. When we talk about Hindutva, we are talking about a political construct as an instrument to gain power. Hindutva has nothing whatsoever to do with faith or with belief in the religion of our choice. Savarkar, the founder of the ideology of Hindutva, I just want to quote what he wrote. He said, "Hindutva is not identical with what is vaguely indicated by the term Hinduism. We do not primarily and certainly not mainly concern ourselves with religion or creed. Hindutva is the part, Hinduism is only a fraction, only a part of Hindutva." Today we have in power a party which believes in an ideology of Hindutva, and that ideology of Hindutva has very little to do with Hinduism or those who believe in the religion of Hinduism. Hindutva is a construct. It is the use of religion as a political instrument to gain power. And therefore today, when we see across India every single real issue of the people being sidelined, being marginalized by the creation of a so-called Hindutva identity. Who interprets what is faith? Who interprets the way you believe in the gods or goddesses you believe in? Who can interpret it? All over India, there are multiple ways of expressing your faith. In North India, there are different ways. In Kerala and Karnataka, in the whole of the South, there are multiple ways, there are multiple local deities. There are differences of rituals. There are areas where there are no rituals. But how is it that today in India we find the imposition of an interpretation of religion which suits the political interests of those in power? This is the main question before us today. In temple committees across India, there are lakhs of temples. Each has their own organization. But how is it that now there is a concerted move to utilize those committees, those temple committees, to promote a certain understanding of religion which is necessarily opposed to another religion? Why and how? For centuries, religion has been a reality in the lakhs of villages and towns of India. But today, if we are told that believing in a particular religion means necessarily the undermining, the demeaning, and ultimately the demonization of another religion, I believe that is an insult to faith. It is an insult to religion. When you use religious platforms and religious slogans, for example, the slogan of Jai Shri Ram, today across India, what do we see? We see this slogan, which is an invocation to a god. We see that slogan today being converted into a slogan of aggression, a slogan of hatred against another community. Why? Why should it be that when you are trying to invoke hatred, where you are being violent against another citizen of India on the basis of their religion, why should you invoke the name of a Hindu god as a slogan of aggression and hate? Why? What does it mean? It means the conversion of gods and the conversion of beliefs in that God into an instrument to achieve a political purpose. That is the point here. You have Hindutva, you have millions of Indians who consider themselves Hindu, and you have a political project. And what is happening is that political project today is using that faith and belief which goes by the name of Hinduism to achieve the political agenda of Hindutva. So politics, faith, Hindutva, and political power. In India, we have a constitution. The constitution is very clear. The constitution's preamble says, "We, the people of India." The constitution does not say, "We, the people of this or that religion." It says, "We, the people of India." What does the RSS pledge say? They have a pledge, the RSS. We believe in the Constitution. What is the pledge of the RSS? I want to read it out to you. In the name of Almighty God and our ancestors, I hereby vow that I have become a member of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh in order to protect our sacred Hindu dharma, Hindu culture, and Hindu society, and to achieve the all-round development of the Hindu nation. So immediately, once you take a pledge like that, the question that must arise in each of our minds is the following. Does such a pledge support the Constitution of India? Does such a pledge educate its members to defend the principles of the Constitution of India? Or does such a pledge intrinsically challenge the basis of the Constitution of India? Today, the RSS is not a registered society. We have a situation where the government of India has issued special permission. Normally, government servants are not allowed to join any overtly political organization. This is a general rule in India, that government servants are not supposed to openly associate with any political organization or party. This is a general rule. Now, if you allow government servants and top bureaucrats to take a pledge like this, these are not ordinary people. You have a minister taking a pledge like this in the RSS Shakha, and you have the same minister in Parliament or the Assembly taking the pledge on the Constitution of India. Which pledge will he or she be loyal to? That is a question. Today, if a top bureaucrat, if a top police officer, or one of the heads of the Election Commission of India, just giving an example, if they take a pledge openly of the RSS, which I have read out to you, and if they not only take the pledge, but if they believe that their promotion in the government is also, like you oil the wheel of a car to make it go smoothly, if they believe that taking such a pledge will oil the wheels of their career and their ambition, who will they be loyal to? So the question which was raised by the Congress Home Minister of Karnataka, Priyank Kharge, I believe is a very, very relevant question, because that is a question we have been raising all this time, which is this: why is the RSS not registered? Where is the RSS funding coming from? And thirdly, how is it acceptable that top bureaucrats can take the RSS pledge, which is directly against the Constitution of India? I have read it out to you. So what we have today in India is a political project led by people who have forget what happened in 1950. We all know what happened. We all know what happened in 1950. When Golwalkar and the entire political forefathers of the present BJP leaders, what they did in 1950 when Dr. Ambedkar Sahab had put the Constitution of India before the people of this country, at that time what had happened, we know. They had said there is nothing Bharatiya about this Constitution. We want the Manusmriti. We don't want this Constitution. That is well known. That was in 1950. But I'm saying today, in 2026, when that same understanding is being promoted, not just by shakhas in your neighborhood, but by top government officials, what is going to be the state of the Constitution of India? That is the question before each one of us today. And the second question that I would like to raise before you. Here in Kerala, we know that there is a sense of religiosity among vast sections of our population here. My question is, are we going to allow that spiritual belief, that religious belief, which is our own personal faith, to be misused for a political project which is not only against our own faith and our own traditions, but which preaches hatred throughout our country. What are the middle classes today of India and their responsibility is a question I always have in my mind. In my work among women particularly, I find that the difference between spiritualism, religiosity, faith, and the use of that faith for political purposes is getting blurred. Because don't forget, this is backed by huge media power. This is backed by huge communications. Festivals which were never ever, for example, never ever observed in Bengal. Today we find so many North Indian festivals. Karwa Chauth, we never heard of it in Bengal. Have you heard of Karwa Chauth in Kerala? We have never heard of it. But today, how is it that Karwa Chauth, that is keeping a fast for the well-being of one's husband and looking at the moon through the sieve, I find in Kerala also. And I find streets of jewelry shops in Kerala on the occasion of Karwa Chauth with huge advertisements saying, gift your wife a gold necklace on the occasion of Karwa Chauth. No, it's happening. I think this is an insult to our beliefs, our faith, and I think it's pretty insulting to think that women are going to be inveigled into such things. But yes. And one more aspect, which I would just like to flag, that this is not happening just spontaneously. There is huge money behind it. For example, a lot of my work has been in Adivasi areas in India, in many remote Adivasi areas in India. And as you know, Adivasis have their own cultures, own identities, their own customs, their own beliefs, the way they believe, the way they worship nature. We all know that. But what do I find now? Corporate social responsibility funds, which are given by big corporates, a lot of those funds now are going to these so-called Hindutva organizations, branches of the RSS. The RSS is not registered, but these organizations are supposedly registered. They're getting huge funds, and through those funds, they are promoting a kind of assimilation or a Sanskritization of Adivasi cultures to make them part of this greater Hindutva nationality, identity. Now, these are things which are happening incrementally. We find in so many Adivasi areas, temples which now have been set up with huge funds by these corporate-funded NGOs. And I think this assault on the intelligence of our people, which is geared towards a particular political project, is something the educated in India, the middle classes of India, have a very big responsibility to understand and to question. And these are some of the issues which go into the creation of this Hindutva identity, which has nothing to do with faith or religion. And the issue of nationalism also is being identified with a particular religion. any kind of dissent, you are accused of being anti-national. When the farmers dissented, because many of them were Sikhs, they were called Khalistanis. Yesterday, I saw on social media the young students being trolled who had protested at Jantar Mantar. They were being called the children of Babar. Babar ke aulad. What does that mean? Immediately, the division comes. If you dissent, you are Babar ke aulad. Who is Babar? Babar is a Muslim, an enemy, demonized because of his religion. These are very, very serious aspects which I believe are poison for our country, for our system, for our thinking, and most of all, for those who believe in faith and religion. I mean, I'm an atheist. Many people tell me, you're an atheist, what would it matter to you? That's not true. We are atheists, but we respect faith and belief and the right of every individual in this country under Article 25 of the Constitution of India to choose the faith they want to choose the religion they want to. And we are the greatest champions of Article 25, which is the right to freedom of conscience, the right to the religion of your choice. But we are talking about religion. We are not talking about political manipulation of religion. And that today is the greatest danger before India. And the separation in our own minds between our faith and what the BJP RSS ecosystem is doing, I think it is the duty of all thinking people in India to raise their voice against it. And wherever we are, in whichever public place we are, we should consciously oppose such manipulation of nationalism, of religion, and of our personal belief. I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak on this. And once again, I pay my homage to dear comrade Murali Maharaj.